Good evening. Welcome to Putnam County. For those who are Putnam Countyans, you need no welcome. However, it's always a blessing to come together for a common cause and for us to discuss issues that are near and dear to all of our hearts. And we're honored tonight that we can come together in civility and in the name of Putnam County to discuss and to maybe get a better and more comprehensive understanding of some recent developments in our region. And that's really what it's about. It's about fact finding, it's about getting understanding. And when we get understanding, then all of us can work cohesively as a unit to do things that are positive for the quality of life for our community. One size does not fit all. All of us have come from various places this evening, and we've come mainly to gather information. At this time, I would like to open with an invocation and also would like for us to pledge allegiance to our great nation. I just think that that's appropriate for our meetings in our community. If everyone would please stand. As we reverence our hearts to God. Almighty God, we come humbly before your throne of grace and mercy. We come with an attitude of appreciation for the manifestations of the many blessings that you bestow upon our community as well as our nation and world. For we know that there's nothing beyond your reach. You have all power and authority in heaven and on earth. We ask you to lead and guide us this evening as we come together to seek out facts and get understanding about past developments in our region. We know, dear God, that once we all get understanding, we can come together and work for a common cause so that all can win. When it's all said and done, we can do nothing without you, and without you, we are all failures. Bless us and refresh us, renew us and restore us, and help us to do any and everything that will bring honor and glory to your matchless name. It's in Christ Jesus' name I pray. Amen. The flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very kindly. Tonight, I would like to present to us Mr. Joe Pickens, who is the president of the St. Johns River State College, former legislator, and also former county official. As I walk off of the stage, I would like to say to all of us that have gathered here, let's be mindful that there is no magic wand, that although certain things have been said, it's a lot that must go into action. Money is one. We need to listen attentively to any and everything that is being presented. Tonight is not a county commission meeting. I do serve currently as the chairman of your county commission, but this is not an official meeting of the county. This is a meeting that county officials as well as state officials and community leaders have gathered so that we can hear facts and really get a grip on what we have heard over the past few weeks. So I'm asking everyone to please operate in the spirit of Putnam County so that we can have mutual love and respect for each other and each speaker that may come before us tonight. Obviously, it's too many of us for all of us to speak. And if someone happens to say something that you concur with, then just amen it, instead of repeating it. So thank you very kindly for that. Let's have a warm welcome for our very own Joe Pickens.
Okay, so how did I get myself into this situation? I've known Daniel Davis for over a decade. During my period in the Florida legislature, he was the executive director of the Northeast Florida Builders Association, and now he is here to speak to you in his role as CEO of the Jacks Chamber. I'd like to discuss what I hope this meeting is not about. Everyone in here has opinions on what should or shouldn't happen to the Rodman Reservoir, the Ocklawaha River, and the dam. most of you may very well have opinions on what should or shouldn't happen with respect to the dredging of the St. Johns River at the inlet at Jacksonville. We've had those opinions, and we didn't convene this meeting to discuss our opinions on those two particular issues. What Mr. Davis asked Chairman Flagg to do and I to do is convene a meeting so that he can come and discuss with the citizens of Putnam County who have interest in what happened with respect to the memorandum of understanding, what led up to it, and why we are here. And that's really why we are here. And so I would ask, although we're not going to stifle anyone, although I will tell you that every single one of you has the ability to conclude this meeting. Because this meeting will be concluded, and I have discussed this with Chairman Flagg. If someone acts with incivility or disrespect, then the meeting will be over and we will move to a different forum where people can do that. We don't expect that, but that is one rule that he and I did agree to. And so I'd ask, when you ask your questions of Mr. Davis, and you're welcome to do so, that you do so in that manner. Mr. Davis has asked us for the opportunity to come to Putnam County and speak to Putnam Countyans about what happened with the MOU and where we can go from here. And that's the opportunity we have given him. And so I ask for you to give your undivided attention and politeful respect to Mr. Davis as he wades into this environment, which, yes, he very well may have had a lot to do with creating, but is also willing to come here and try to fix it. I've known Daniel Davis for a decade as a good and kind and caring person for all of Northeast Florida, both in his service in the private industry, but also in the Florida legislature as well. It is with that heart and with that sense of purpose that he comes here to speak to you today and to answer your questions should you have them. This forum is not intended to answer any, or certainly not all, of the what-ifs going forward. But it is an opportunity for us to hear from Mr. Davis and then decide where we want to go as a community, but hopefully as a region from here on out. And so now I would introduce to you and I ask you to welcome Daniel Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to thank Commissioner Flagg and Representative Pickens for giving me the opportunity to come down here and speak to the community. I apologize for making you have to come out tonight, and that's the reason I wanted to come down and talk. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're here and how we got here, and then we'll just let the evening progress and the conversation progress. I worked on the Jacksonville City Council for a long time on economic development and imports and exports at the port. I was the liaison to the different independent authorities. And I really enjoyed the idea of growing jobs in the community through imports and exports. And ended up in the Florida legislature for a while and then came back to Jacksonville to work at the chamber. And the number one goal I had was to create more jobs for our region. The opportunity for deepening the harbor at Jacksport impacts our entire community with tens of thousands of jobs. And I fully believe that the deepening of the harbor would allow us to grow more jobs and affect the people that I represent in our community. When I entered the job, I started understanding how important that was and wanted to do anything I could to make sure that we were able to fulfill those duties. During that process, I understood that there would be litigation and environmental groups were not as understanding and didn't have the same beliefs that I might have had with deepening the harbor. And I was trying to figure out different ways to solve the discrepancies between the two to where we could not only protect the St. Johns River and have a balanced approach to growing more jobs and making sure we keep the thousands of jobs that affect our industry. During that process, I started learning more about the Rodman Dam and the issues that the environmental community had and the discussions that they had regarding the Rodman Dam and the reservoir, and understood that that was a major issue for them. Started beginning talks with the riverkeeper in Jacksonville to understand what we could do to avoid litigation if there was a way to move forward with deepening the harbor. During those talks, we did come to an agreement that they would not sue for the deepening of the harbor if we were able to pierce the Rodman Dam, or they would remove a lawsuit if there was one in place, if that was able to help provide more fresh water into the St. Johns River. During that process, we worked for a couple weeks, couple months on how that would look, and I got to tell you, when I get focused on something, oftentimes I can get that tunnel vision and have a goal in mind, and I oftentimes lose sight of what could possibly be out there around it. We ended up making a public announcement about it, and I have to tell you, I was very disappointed in myself for having that tunnel vision and losing the opportunity to communicate with this community. I wanted to come down today and talk to you and tell you that we should be looking at economic development as a region. And anytime that one party in the region is not focused on the other parties in the region and how it could affect them, that's not good. And I had a communication plan that I should have communicated with the folks in Putnam County, but I did not execute the communication plan like I should. And I wanted to make sure that I came down here and told you that I apologize for that. I'm sorry that you had to learn, commissioners and electeds and constituents in this community. You had to learn about it in the newspaper, in the television news. And I wanted to come down here and tell you that. And I know that we're going to discuss many things tonight, but one thing I want to do is make sure I got the message to you that during that process, I missed the opportunity to communicate and act as a region and act like a team player. And I know that the only way that we can solve problems for our region and be successful for our region is if we work together. And with that, I would like to at least open up the opportunity for the folks in this room to ask questions or to communicate with me. But I wanted to start off with being very clear that I want to make sure that we can look a way to make this right. So, Commissioner Flagg.
Thank you very kindly. Just before it's open for Q&A there, it would be appropriate for us to recognize our state representative that's here, Representative Van Zandt, and all of the elected officials that are across the room. Will you please stand and be recognized? All of the elected officials that are here. County Commission, our mayor is here. We have our constitutional officer, school board. Thank you very kindly for all of your leadership and how you're working together. We're asking all who would want to ask a question. If you want to make a statement, let's maybe hold your statements for just a moment, but if you have a question, a specific question, please step up to this microphone here and you might would form some kind of line. Again, do not ask a series of questions because there are others who would like to ask a question as well. So if you have a question, prioritize it. Bring your number one question there, and please, if it does require a complete dissertation, give him time to do that back at his office. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Andy Johnson. I'm a former member of the legislature, and I've helped save the Rodman Dam several times, and I'm getting tired of this procedure. Mr. Davis, you just mentioned You just mentioned something that everybody in the whole room already knows. It was wrong, flat out just wrong, to do this memo of understanding where you agreed that you were going to destroy Putnam's most valuable asset, and you didn't even ask Putnam about it. But I didn't understand, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to tear up that memo? That would be the right thing to do. Are you going to tear up the memo? Why don't you announce that?
That's not the point of the meeting tonight. The point of the meeting tonight was for me to come down and start a dialogue that should have been started a long time ago. I wanted to let you know there's something that we all agree in, and we agree in growing jobs. I think that's very important for all communities in Northeast Florida, and the river, and the health of the river is very important for everybody in Northeast Florida. And I wanted to come down and start the dialogue that should have started a long time ago. And I'm not prepared to tell you that I would tear up the memo or not tear up the memo. I just think that it's important for us to at least start the dialogue together to talk about the solutions. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Tim Hotelling. I'm new to this area, all of this stuff. I'd like to know from you what your understandings were of the environmental concerns that were expressed that were so monumental that they wanted to have the dam removed. Number one, and number two, was there any discussion about the flow rates of Silver Springs and all of the other springs that are supposedly down drastically at this point in time, as in where the water was supposed to come from?
In general, I have talked to several folks in the environmental community regarding the science of removing the dam and letting the fresh water into the St. Johns River. But I don't have any information on the flow rates for.
Well, you stated that you listened to the environmentalists, Miss Lisa, whoever, and that they had all of their concerns, and it was a big deal for them. For you to develop an understanding of how big a deal it was, they must have explained what their concerns were. What is your understanding of their concerns?
That removing the Rodman Dam would improve the quality of water in the St. Johns River.
And was there ever a time that they had the discussion came up about how the river keeper has spent the last 4 to 6 years or whatever fighting the extraction of water from the St. Johns River because they needed to save the water for the aquifer, and now they want to flush it down the river? It's sort of like a dichotomous zig and zang, yin and yang, whatever. Did that topic ever come up?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Masters, a resident here and actually live on the St. Johns River. I understand the positive economic impact that improvement to the port would have, probably on a bigger region than just Jacksonville. And so I can understand you're doing what you can to try and make sure that that project is successful. So my question to you is, when Congress has approved your application or the project as it is with the current mitigation plan in place, why would you want to sign a memorandum that would talk about changing the mitigation plan that would obviously delay the project and perhaps jeopardize funding for that project in order to appease river keepers with the Rodman?
That's a good question. Appreciate it. One thing that's very important to remain competitive on a global scale is to be able to stay on track with the deepening of the locks in Panama and being able to berth the larger ships in Jacksonville and in Northeast Florida to create jobs and not to lose jobs. It's very, very competitive, and we're competing with other ports across the East Coast. And if we get off track as far as our timing goes, we could be the ones that aren't able to compete on a global scale. And so it was very important for us to make sure that we stayed on track with the timing of the deepening of the locks. And this is a way that we could avoid any postponing of the timing for being able to deepen the harbor.
But my understanding is you just can't plug a new mitigation plan into your project. The project as is has been approved by Congress. That plan would have to be just not amended, but refiled. That's going to be quite a delay.
Actually, the way we have it set up, we want to avoid the delay in the legal system, because right now we're on track to be able to stay on time.
With the project as it's written, or with the project changing it out for Rodman as the mitigation plan?
Rodman is not the mitigation plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Charles Murphy, and I could say a lot, but every bit of it's been said. But I want to thank you for being here tonight,
Sir.
and at least addressing the town and the community, because I know we feel slighted, and you know we were.
Yes, sir.
But my big question is, there's a group of four that got together to decide to destroy Rodman to deepen the river on false facts, because saltwater intrusion is not going to happen with the deepening. That's a proven. But 3 weeks ago, yesterday, Lisa Reineman was on Channel 4 on This Week in Jacksonville program for an interview. Do you know about that interview?
No, sir.
Find out about it, because she made the statement she was still opposed to the dredging, even with Rodman gone. So, where's your partnership?
Yes, sir. I understand. She has never said that she was for the dredging ever in any meeting that I've been in. I understand that, and there are many members of the environmental community that wouldn't be in favor of it either. If I can, and listen, you saying that you appreciate me being here, that means a lot to me. With a group of people that probably I'm not the favorite person tonight.
Right.
I understand that.
Well,
but honestly,
I am proud that you at least had the nerve
that's
to come to Putnam
Right.
County and nobody else did.
That means a lot to me, because, you know, I want the people in here to know that I care about our region. I don't just care about Jacksonville. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't care about the region.
Right.
Okay? And I understand that I'm not going to agree with Riverkeeper. We don't agree. She doesn't agree with me. But if I can avoid the lengthy litigation and help grow tens of thousands of jobs and not lose tens of thousands of jobs, that was my goal. And I have that tunnel vision
Right.
to get that done. So I understand that she's not going to agree with me.
Well, you know, most of us are fine with the fact you want to grow jobs. That's great in this economy we
Yes,
have
sir.
nowadays. A bunch of us go to Jacksonville and shop.
Yes, sir.
But we don't want to lose the few jobs we have in this community because of it.
And let me tell everybody in the room, I don't want you to lose the jobs here either. In fact, I want you to grow jobs in this community. Okay? And so the people that know me, maybe at the end of this process, you'll know that I'm a genuine person. What you see is what you get.
Well,
Okay?
I just hope going forward
Yes, sir.
that you are willing to work with Putnam County and include us with everything that's going on.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
All right, thank you.
I'm Roy Wires from St. Augustine, and I represent 3 bass clubs in the North Florida area. 2 points I'd like to make, or questions I'd like to ask, is one, what is the rationale thinking that removing the dam is going to add any more fresh water to the St. Johns River, where you already have the same outflow as you do intake? Nothing is lost other than through evaporation. So if the dam is removed, essentially, once you get the big influx of water from the dam, you're going to have the same amount of water running into the Ocklawaha River and ultimately into the St. Johns that you do now. So that I don't understand the rationale in that. And my second point is, I think the legislature should be looking upstream and being more aware of the millions of gallons that are being taken out of the St. Johns River for Central Florida use.
I understand that. And I would tell you that I have a public record of opposing the withdrawal, and so I agree with you on that. And I would have to tell you that I'm not a scientist. I have read and looked at what many people have said about this, and many people that are much more knowledgeable than me about it. And that's what I entered into this agreement, understandings that would improve. And I know there's people in here that don't agree with that, and that's okay. That's what the whole purpose of us getting together tonight. But it would improve the water quality in the St. Johns River.
Well, the water quality is already being improved. If you look at some Lake Watch surveys that were done by Save Rodman, Rodman Reservoir acts as a settling pond, if you would, for water flowing into it, and nutrients and things like that are absorbed into the reservoir rather than being discharged into the St. John. So essentially, the water is potentially cleaner now than it would be if the dam were not there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I'm Michael Seamer.
Mike.
I'm a member of the local fire department in Interlochen, and this last year we worked on a new ISO rating, which is basically your insurance rating for your surrounding areas. We spent just about the whole year and a whole lot of time certifying lakes in our surrounding area as draft points. All of these lakes
As what? I didn't hear you.
as draft points for drafting water.
Okay.
The only way that these lakes could be draftable, and this is through the ISO requirements, is if the lake has a certified lake basin. The Rodman Reservoir is the only certified lake basin for almost every lake in our surrounding area in Interlochen. And this, if it was to be removed, we would have to uncertify all of the local lakes in Interlochen. We cannot keep that certification as a draft point, which would mean that people's home insurance rates would go up.
Sure. I haven't heard that, but I appreciate it, and I'll do my research on that.
Yes, my name's Greg Walker. I'm a correspondent for Palatka Daily News. I made numerous trips to Tallahassee with our past president, Ed Taylor.
Yes.
And aside from a few of the representatives and the people in their offices, most had never been to Rodman, had no idea what it looked like, nothing about it. The only thing they can judge by is what they read or what they've been told. A lot of people, and it's been in the newspapers over and over, it is just a little fishing hole for a few private bubbas. Well, anything could be further than the truth than that.
Yes, sir.
It's a recreation area.
Yes, sir.
It has boat ramps. It has campgrounds. People come there to fish. They come to hunt in the nearby Ocala Forest. They come there to canoe. Photographers come there. It's a big recreation area. They spend a lot of money in there.
Yes, sir.
A lot of ramps, a lot of campgrounds. Millions of dollars have been spent on that recreation area. And just to reiterate what the other gentleman said, it acts like a filter.
Yes, sir.
And back when Jeb Bush was governor, he made the statement, if the science proves right that the water's cleaner leaving the reservoir than it was coming in there, then that reservoir is going to stay there. Now, I don't know what our governor now has, what his opinion is on it. But the science proves right. And like he said, once you dump that reservoir, then you're back down to the normal flow, which wouldn't be any more than what you had when you had the dam. Thank you.
I appreciate that, sir.
Hello,
How
my
are
name
you?
is Bonnie Allender. At one time, I was commissioner for 8 years for this
Okay.
county. And unfortunately, I was commissioner when we were fighting a big battle over the deauthorization of the Florida Barge Canal. Well, I tell you, I started out on one side with Marjorie Carr, and I went over and I listened to their little group, which consisted of 5 people over my age now. I'm an old lady now, but they were over my age now, and I considered them to be old. And this was where the deauthorization of the canal came from. Well, when it was deauthorized, we met. Congress came to Putnam County, believe it or not.
Yes, ma'am.
And we heard from a lot of people about to save it, to give it away, what to do about it. Well, the Audubon Society had been against it because of the birds were going to disappear from the world, and all the deer were going to commit suicide, and the fish were going to drown in the lake, which of course all of that was a bunch of hogwash. Just people got really excited. I do really appreciate your coming here because you've got a lot of courage. And I've had to face some of those things, so I know it's a problem. But what I don't understand is how the riverkeeper could do a memorandum of agreement. I'm going to read to you from a book, which when they passed the law was, House Bill 752 and Senate Bill 8, I think it was 1813, 1815. And it said Rodman Pool could not be drained. So I don't understand by what authority the riverkeeper could make some agreement when the Congress of the United States had said this will be a greenway and Rodman Pool cannot be drowned. And it says so in this book. Well, how did we get around that? That's my question to you. Maybe you could answer that for me. So how was he able to make a memorandum of agreement when the Congress had said it couldn't be made?
I am not familiar with what you read in the book, and I'd have to go back and look at that.
Okay, this is, well, you probably can't find it because this is the only copy in Putnam County.
Okay.
It's called A Hearing of the Subcommittee on Water Resources, done by the Committee on Public Works and Transportation from the House of Representatives of the United States.
Okay.
So you might get a copy from them.
I will. And really, the memorandum of understanding, it really is. It's more like a gentleman's agreement, a public gentleman's agreement, that if we were able to move forward with restoring the Ocklawaha and able to find other opportunities to help grow the economy in Jacksonville, then they would not continue any lawsuit that they had.
Okay.
So it really doesn't, honestly, it doesn't have to do with.
It has to do with law.
I would have
law.
to I would have to see that. From my understanding, it's regulated by the state of Florida. So I would have to go back and look.
Well, this
And-
comes from the Congress of the United States, and
that-
when the deauthorization happened,
Yes, ma'am.
the control of that went from the state of Florida to the Congress, and this was to be a permanent greenway along the path of the canal.
I will make sure I look at that.
So it's, I don't think it's quite fair
Yes, ma'am.
for him to decide on his own to do a memorandum of agreement, and I think it was really in bad faith to you to say that he had the authority to do it, because I don't believe he does.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate your
do you
thoughts.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
And the other thing is everybody on the route needs to be contracted before any changes are made. In this, the Congress came down to see us about this whole thing before the law was passed. And it said that, and this book says, and I'll show it to you in this book, or if you want to look at this book, or I'll send you a copy of the pages. I won't turn it loose because I'd
Okay.
like to never gotten it again.
I understand.
Because and they wrote there it was the only copy.
This is what I would tell you, and you're, I think, the third person that's mentioned about keeping everybody in touch with what's going on.
Right.
And I promise one thing to you. I have made many mistakes in my life. Hopefully, I've not made the same mistake twice.
You couldn't have made more than me.
Well, I've learned a lot from my mistakes.
These are friendly
Yes, ma'am.
questions. I would like to know
yes,
how
ma'am.
this came about,
Yes, ma'am.
because how can we
But
find
this-
something that's some mystery that's floating around in the air that we don't know what the facts are?
This is what I would tell you with that.
Okay.
I will not do anything regarding Palatka, Putnam County, the reservoir, the Port of Jacksonville in connection to the reservoir, without it being public and you and the people in this community knowing about it.
Because if you're afraid of if you're just afraid of the riverkeeper suing you, you start draining that pool, and I think you'll find that there are other people that know where the courts are.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Crystal Knight. I was born and raised in Jacksonville. but I moved here a little over 20 years ago and built a home. There's a lot of fishermen around here. One of the main reasons was the fishing and going to Rodman and all over the river. One of the questions that either, if it was said, I either overlooked it or whatever, why does the draining or the dredging rather in Jacksonville, which I can understand, I've lived there before, I understand it needs to be dredged. I really do. But why would that have to do with anything here in Palatka and with Rodman? Why? Can you answer that?
Well, I know not
Aside
everybody's
a
going to agree
lawsuit.
with me in the room tonight, but the connection of improving the quality of St. Johns River, there are some speculation that the deepening of the harbor would increase salinity in the St. Johns River, and so improving the freshwater in the St. Johns River is an opportunity to offset those. And so that's basically how it was put together. I can't answer the question any
So a
other way.
major flood breaching the dam and having that water come out, you think is going to put more fresh water up in Jacksonville.
And
How can that be when
I think in general, the idea is it would improve the quality of the St. Johns River. And I know not everybody agrees with that understanding. I understand that. That's where it came from.
there's not, I really cannot see where it's going to improve the
Okay.
quality when you're going to have the same amount of water anyway. So,
I
but it's
I appreciate the comments. I do. Yes, sir.
I'm Larry Albert. I live in Interlochen. I've
Larry.
fished in Rodman and the Ocklawaha for about 15 years. I also read the USGS website. It tells us real time what the flow rate in the Ocklawaha River is at the dam. It also tells us the flow rate in the St. Johns River. Now, the flow rate in the Ocklawaha River is about 1% of the flow rate in the St. Johns River. That's nothing, that's no more than a rain. One of my questions is this whole organization or several organizations in Jacksonville are all concerned about the economic development of Jacksonville, and so you want to dredge the St. Johns River. Why does that economic development not reach down this far and take that chokehold called the Shands Bridge and raise it so that we can get some of the economic development down here instead of penalizing us by taking our water supply?
I would answer that, sir. Honestly, I believe that there should be more economic development in Palatka and in Putnam County and in Interlochen. And we should be at the table together trying to do everything we can to improve that as a region. And so I want to let you know I do care about that. I have thoughts about that, and moving forward as a team, I would like to have those discussions on how we can improve that.
Good evening. My name is Bill Van Dyne. I live in Orange Park. I have a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Florida. I have a Master of Science from the other place out west down I-10. And my family moved up here from Lakeland when I was 12 years old to Mandarin, lived on the St. Johns River, fished on St. Johns River from the Atlantic Ocean all the way down to slightly south of Lake Helen Blazes, which is known as the source of the river. I have a lot of firsthand information that I've gathered over the years. It disagrees with a lot of public information.
Okay.
I go back a lot further than the record keeping does. I'll be 77 in a couple of months, still fish. But I want to address two of the key issues that has to do with the deal that was made with the devil about the destroying the Rodman Dam. Okay, two people have already spoken about this, and they say they don't see why, when the dam is breached, if the dam is breached, there will be a greater flow rate. And it's this: when the water is backed up behind the dam, it increases the level of everything behind it back to the point way upstream in the Ocklawaha River where the rise meets the new water level.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of submerged springs down there, and the water over those springs creates a head pressure that reduces the flow from the springs. So what the river keeper is saying is that when the dam is breached, there will be 330 million gallons a day of new water flowing down the Ocklawaha River that's going to flush out to St. John's, get rid of all the nutrients that Jacksonville is dumping in the river, and reducing the salinity. Okay? Now, how much water are we talking about here? The river keeper is saying 330 million gallons a day. Most of that is going to be coming from greater flow from the springs when the lake level is dropped. Okay, where is that water coming from? It's coming right out of the Florida aquifer. I have heard of no other so-called environmental group in Florida for decades that has ever been against conserving the water in the Florida aquifer. Okay, most of that 330 million gallons is spring water. The other part of it, which is a smaller fraction, is the evaporation rate that will be gone when the lake is gone. Okay, so all that water that's now evaporating into the atmosphere will join the spring water flowing down the river.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for some reason, the Rodman Dam, the Rodman Reservoir, is the only body of water that I know of in the whole world where evaporation is a problem. Every other lake on the St. Johns River system sits there and evaporating too, and it's just fine. But for some reason, evaporation from Rodman is bad. Okay? I can't see how any responsible Floridian can agree that the highest and best use of the water in the Florida aquifer is to flush down the St. Johns River. Does that make any sense at all? Here's the second point, the salinity, okay? Every river in the world that discharges to the ocean has its own unique salinity gradient. Every river. The gradient of every river in the world is constantly changing with changes in weather and in climate. There's nothing sacred about any particular number. Every body of water has got its own salinity gradient. There's saltwater rivers in Florida that are just fine. There's freshwater rivers in Florida that are just fine. There are rivers in estuaries everywhere in between that are just fine. Now, the river keeper seems to feel that this 330 million gallons a day of water that's supposed to come out of the river is going to be, quote, helpful to reduce the salinity. Okay. I'd like everybody in here to look at the current issue, February 2015 of National Geographic magazine. It has to do with sea level rise. They're saying that in the next 35 years, by 2050, the sea level is going to be 5 feet higher than it is right now. I think the Riverkeeper is the only environmental organization that I've ever seen or heard of that doesn't know about global warming. When the river comes up 5 feet, you can kiss all that salinity gradient stuff goodbye, because that's going to overwhelm everything. In 10 years, which is probably about the time any of this would happen, if it ever happens, it's 1.4 feet of increase. That's going to overwhelm anything
Yes,
that
sir.
a little bit of water coming out of the Ocklawaha is going to do. Those are the two main regions, and they're full of baloney.
Yes, sir. I appreciate
Thank
those
you.
comments. Yes, sir.
We have several other speakers that want to speak. We are mindful of everyone's time. I do want to make sure that everyone here understand that this is not a meeting for pro Rodman and those that are against Rodman. Right now, we have a memorandum of understanding that's on the table.
Yes, sir.
I hear from this community and I hear from my colleagues that our biggest challenge right now is the fact that Putnam County was never invited to the table. That does not work in Putnam County. And because of that situation, there is no such thing as unringing a bell and unscrambling an egg. I've heard people applaud you for coming. They talked about the fact that your courage, your bravery, and all of those good things. Again, I appreciate because I really want to believe down in my heart that you're genuine for coming. But I also know that we can go on and on and on talking about what we're talking about. Right now, this county needs to be at the table. Period. And I don't want to stop anyone from sharing what they have to share, and those who have printed copies of what you want to share tonight, I want that to happen. But while the next 2 or 3 speakers come in, Mr. Davis, I want you meditating on how important Putnam County is to this region and what can happen immediately, if not sooner, to get us to the table, and that every single action that has been implemented or instigated in any way, shape, form, or fashion prior to tonight, that somehow or another, someone get the message. We're not teasing, we're not joking, we're serious. We are not an add-on. We will have to be at the table. Thank you.
I would tell you, Mr. Chairman, I've been to a couple of town meetings in my life, and there have been few that I've seen so many pickup trucks waiting for me when I showed up. So I do understand that where Putnam County is, and I've already stated, sir, that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to let Putnam County know that I believe we should work together to solve our region's problems and concerns and job growth. So I'm willing, sir.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tommy Underwood. I live in West Putnam at Grandin. What's something that has not been discussed at all and is vitally important to the health and welfare of Putnam County? In the last 20 years, they draw down Rodman to help with the purity of the water and so forth. Every time they draw down Rodman, the lakes in Putnam County go down. The last time it was drawn down 3.5 years ago, from Keystone Heights, Lake Geneva, Flora Home, Interlaken, every lake, Cowpen Lake, all of them drew down 4 feet by the ruler. If they breach the dam, Putnam County lakes are probably going to dry up. So this is something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yes, sir.
And the only way the water comes back into the lakes is by rain. Where my house is, I'm approximately 55 feet higher than the boat ramp at Rodman. And so water just doesn't come back uphill.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
I'm Charlie Martin.
Sir.
The state channelized the Kissimmee River to prevent flooding. And then they found out that when the water moved down swiftly, it didn't go through the creeks and the marshes. Then it was more pollution in there. And then they spent millions of dollars to put the channel back in so the water would go slowly to the St. John. I hope we don't make the same mistake at Rodman. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Davis,
Yes, sir.
my name is Jim McCartney.
How you doing,
I
Jim?
write for a major fishing magazine in the state of Florida. I came here tonight to tell these people about who the river keeper is, which you already know. The river keeper is not an elected official. She is elected in her group. She is an extreme political environmentalist. Now, every politician that I heard, Mr. Davis, said the dredging's a done deal, a done deal, a done deal, a done deal. How did you let this extreme political environmental lady that's been in Jacksonville politics all these years snooker you into allotting her money to tear down the Rodman Reservoir?
Well, number one, I wasn't snookered into anything. Okay. I've already explained to the group, my whole goal was to avoid lengthy litigation. And that would cause us not to be competitive on a global scale. And that would affect everybody in this room.
You could have run over her in a minute.
It's not true.
Oh, that's true. We all know that. Hey, we all know that. Every politician said it was a done deal.
Yeah,
and we know that. Another question.
Yes, sir.
We don't care what goes on in Jacksonville. We don't like it, but we don't care. Okay. That reservoir out there is the future water supply of Putnam County.
Yes, sir.
Without that, we're going to be like all these other dry counties here that want water. And you want to take that away from us?
I appreciate those comments, sir.
You're welcome.
My name's Ryan Worthington. I do a lot of tournament fishing. I've fished Rodman forever. Question for me is, all right, that small group of people that just decide to form an organization, they want to sue you for delaying the process of the dredging for these 10,000 jobs. Why don't y'all counter-sue them for delaying this process instead of even going this route to the Rodman Dam?
It doesn't work that way. It would just prolong the process.
If they could sue you, I mean, if they start this process, why don't we stand up for what's right and sue them for delaying that whole process, and then put that on them? That way, they delayed all. They made you miss out on those 10,000 jobs.
Right.
Put that on her. Let her live. Let her sleep on that bed.
I appreciate those comments, and I understand your position on it. I care about those jobs as much as you do, and but the process doesn't work that way. It would only prolong the opportunity to deepen the harbor.
Well, if it prolongs it, then that's on her, not on us. I mean, because this does not have anything to do with that up there.
I totally understand.
I mean, you say it's prolonging, but then that puts it on her. That puts it on the River Keepers organization.
Yes,
and then
sir.
you can say, well, thanks to the River Keepers organization, we lost 10,000 jobs in Jacksonville.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I appreciate with gravity the comments that you're making. I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan.
How are you doing?
Hello, my name's John Nooney. I'm a resident of Duval County. I own property in Putnam County, and I'm embarrassed, to be here tonight, having Duval County telling Putnam County, you all need to get your heads straight. And we're not just talking about the river. What I want to share with all of you is that this is the Jacksonville Waterways Commission amended agenda a year ago. And it's dated February 12th, 2014, and there are 6 land use pieces of legislation, and it has to do with the headwaters of Julington Creek and Durbin Creek. And unlike here's a picture. I was there. Nobody was there. The previous night, during a Jacksonville City Council meeting, and that's when I became aware of it, the public hearing was open, but nobody spoke. So here we are, and Lisa, is sitting right there in the front row. And so when we talk about the headwaters of Julington Creek and Durbin Creek in Duval County. And the attorney representing the applicant, our planning department said no. Our planning department gave this answer to the gist of, if you think we have algae blooms now, you haven't seen anything. So, I just wanted to come here, and I just have tremendous concerns
Yes, sir.
that just do not do anything with the Rodman Reservoir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening.
My name is Mark Roberts. Thank you for coming. If Rodman Dam is breached, are you prepared to also breach the other two water restricting dams that feed the Ocklawaha? The one in Griffin and the one in Apopka? Or has that not been discussed? I mean,
It's not been discussed.
if we just tear down one, that's good, but the other two are okay? Because there are two other water restricting dams that feed the Ocklawaha, and that's not been discussed.
It has not been discussed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Steve Miller. I moved to Orange Springs, Florida in 1973, which is on the western shore. Have you ever been to Rodman? You ever spent any time out there? Camp, fish, all that stuff?
Yeah.
That was just a curiosity question. I've got 4 questions, and I'll try and be brief with them. One is, where can we get the information that was provided to you, to the city of Jacksonville, to everyone else with the environmental impacts of removing the dam?
I think that I would be more than happy to provide the information, and maybe a clearinghouse could be set up through the county commission or some type of way that I can make sure I get everybody in this room the information. Okay. I'm more, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
I'll be more than happy to figure out a way, sir, to make sure that that information is available to the people.
Okay. What the next question is, and I think this might clear up one of the questions, the previous questions about the lawsuit. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or tell me if it's not, is the lawsuit would be against the issuance of the permit for the dredging. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's not actually suing you, suing chamber, city, anything like that.
Yes, it would be
Okay.
the actual
Core permit.
permit
for
of
dredging. Right.
deepening the harbor. Yes.
Okay. What is the time frame that Jack's Chamber, Jacksport, City of Jacksonville has put together on trying to get legislation for funding for removal of the dam? Have you guys set up a timeline on what your target date for legislation to go to the Florida legislature is?
It would be sooner rather than later.
Oh, obviously, and
yeah.
that's why we want to make
That's
sure
why I'm here.
that we want to make sure that we get ahead of you guys,
Yeah.
because I don't believe that you're getting all the impact. So, and then the fourth question, it seems like what you've said tonight is it's basically a quid pro quo in getting that legislation passed. If you can get the funding for that dam removal, then the riverkeeper goes away. She's out of your hair. The dredging can move forward, and the progress can be made at the port.
That's the process of the MOU. That's what the MOU.
Well, and that's just wrong. Were the meetings where these agreements were made noticed as public meetings?
No.
Okay. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have 3 citizens in line. Mr. Bailey was the first one, actually, but he's going to actually represent the last. So he will be the full speaker. Then if any of our elected officials, our state representative Van Zant, have some closing comments, and we're going to bring this meeting to a close.
All right.
My name is Robert Bly. I'm wondering, I haven't heard you talk about the mitigation yet. I know from personal experience, I have aquaponics set up for my garden. I found out a long time ago that you can't grow crops in Florida without all your water running right down through the sand and into this subaquifer. So all my water stays in pipes. It gets recirculated. The fish poop, it goes in there, excuse me. And the plants eat it, and then they put out fresh water to the fish again. It's
Yes, sir.
a process. So what type of mitigation is, planned for the deepening?
There is a mitigation plan with the Army Corps permit that I can make public as well. It's a public document, but I can make it readily available for everybody in the room so you can understand the mitigation.
Does it include the addition of plant life to mitigate some of the runoff from fields and things like that?
I would have to look at exactly what the mitigation would go to. I just know that it's a certain amount of funding to restore any type of impact for the deepening of the harbor. But I can get all that information for you. That'll be part of the other information that I provide.
The St. Johns River water management, their plan, is that part of that mitigation plan? Did they have a say in that, or?
I'm not sure if they had a say in it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Laura Mahoney. I'm a concerned citizen. Sorry, Laura Mahoney, a concerned citizen
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Clay County. You stated previously in answering one of the questions that breaching the Rodman is not part of the mitigation, or is not the mitigation for the Corps of Engineers study for the deepening.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read the report. I do know that that's the case, and I've looked at some of the details. So from that perspective, then this is sort of an external action. I mean, it's intended to hold back legislative action from the riverkeeper, but that means there would have to be some sort of process that you would have to go through. I would assume the last major report that was written was in about 1995. Others may know more, that looked at removing the Rodman, and there would have to be an environmental assessment done, those kinds of things. So I think there's a lengthy process involved, but yet I'm not hearing anything about that. So that's basically one point. The other one would be that as you move towards your next steps in your committee or your group trying to seek, removal of the Rodman, will Putnam County representative be on your committee? I mean, will they physically be able to participate, or is it going to be done in a forum where there would be some real representation? Thank you.
Well, I've said earlier in the meeting, and I am very clear. I expect to keep the folks in Palatka and in Putnam County and in Interlochen and surrounding communities in full understanding of what's going on. And I wouldn't come down here if I didn't mean that. So I'm very clear on that.
My name is Josh Fields.
Josh.
I've grown up here fishing. What I do, most fishermen don't agree with. I'm an aquatic pesticide applicator. Through that, I've learned that the way Rodman sits now, with the hydrilla, bladderwort, naiad, that is essential to the ecosystem in that lake or reservoir, it filters the water flowing out of off the roads, off the highways, people's yards, farms, etc. By that, Rodman Reservoir makes it basically, it's cleaning the water that is getting pushed over. So by destroying the dam, you're killing all those natural plants. Now they say what's left will still be there, but you're killing that one big open area of hydrilla or southern naiad that is a filter system for the water.
Yes, sir.
So by destroying the dam, where is it that y'all see it's going to affect saltwater intrusion and the quality of the water, when therefore Rodman Reservoir is just one giant filter?
Somebody else said that tonight too, and I fully respect the comments. And basically, I don't want to repeat myself again about
that's fine.
the.
I mean, you really haven't answered anybody's questions in here directly.
Yeah.
It's kind of been off subject all night. Last point, and I'll let it go to the next person. At Matanzas Inlet, I know that has nothing to do with that. But a couple years ago, the beach washed out. They come in, they sucked all that sand, and for years they've been trying to do it, put sand back to keep it from washing out, but the tide just keeps washing it out. Well, St. John's River is a tidal river, so it's going to push sand out, it's going to pull it in. It's going to push it out, pull it in. So what the heck does it matter that they're able, you dredging 7 foot is going to affect anything? You dredge 7 foot, in 20 years from now, you're going to be dredging again because it's just going to push the water, right? Push the sand back and forth. That's all it's doing. So, like someone else said in here, if it's a lawsuit thing, it's a money thing, it's more of Jacksonville wanting to push people around and get what they want.
Well, I appreciate that, and honestly, I want you to know that I'm trying not to do that. That's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michael Spencer. My question would be, I was looking at a document that the Riverkeeper put out in August of 2014. You've probably seen it. Does it make economic sense for Jacksonville to dredge? And it's got 15 key questions on there that it goes through in detail and answers, which I'm no fan of the Riverkeeper, but not once does it mention anything about Rodman Reservoir or draining any of that. So my question would be, maybe you couldn't answer all of the economic questions that they posed, which might lead to a lawsuit, so y'all came up with a new way to satisfy them by finding out what their perfect scenario would be, drain the Rodman Reservoir, and you swapping it out because economically or feasibly you can't really defend deep dredging the port?
No, that's not the case.
Well, have you refuted pretty well the 15 pertinent questions that they've got with all their detail on their document that they put out in August? Just in August, and it didn't mention anything about salinity in the river. It was actually point by point. You're saying economic benefit. I would challenge that because all you're wanting to do is get more bigger China ships in here to have more China crap in here. But anyway, yeah, I just got one more thing. The other one more thing I'd like for you to refer to the Wall Street Journal today. As a matter of fact, it says with big ships come bigger risk, and it talks about in the article, you might read it, it says that if a ship, that the biggest casualty from 2009 to 2013 were shipwrecks, even more than earthquakes, airplane wrecks, and fire, and that if a ship had a wreck, it might take 2 years to get all the containers if they could ever get them all. So you might think about that if a ship wrecked at the port of Jacksonville, what that might do for all the shipping. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Are you, sir?
I'm Bill Bailey, the original Bill Bailey. Retired military, retired teacher, retired New York Times. Been with the paper for 32 years.
Sir.
The one thing that nobody has expressed to any depth is the real reason Rodman should not be drained. Even at this time, too many wells are being punched into our aquifer. It comes a time in the future when outtake will exceed the input. Now, our artesian wells come from the mountains of Georgia, Carolina, up in that area. That feeds our aquifer. God help us if we ever have a drought in that area. All we need is this drought, and we're in real trouble. How do I know this? Because I majored in geology. While seeking my master's, my extensive thesis was on the formation and geological history of our flooded aquifer and the sources of our water supply. The trends today of increasing well deposit aquifer will continue to draw it down. What we need is a backup water system. Rodman is a source that we can control. We raise it, we lower it, we can increase it, and Palatka especially will need to draw from this source in the near future. So-called environmentalists who want Rodman destroyed care less about what Putnam County feels and needs, what Palatka needs, as far as our water system is concerned. In the first place, no one living right now will ever see the Ocklawaha and the Rodman area go back to its wild state, was what they asked for. We will not live that long. If destroyed, the biological clock will need at least 60 to 80 years to repair what has been done. But we must have that as a water source. So our potential for disaster in not having a water source, a reservoir that we can draw from when we do have a water problem, will cause us great harm.
Yes, sir.
We need to keep Rodman for our water reservoir. So my statement that we'll all wrap it into one thing, that we can tell these environmentalists, and I question the mentalist part of their identification, keep your cotton picking hands off of our reservoir.
Mr. Davis, my name is Dave Bruderly. I am a professional environmental engineer, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out here that kind of needs to be addressed, and I want to be very quick. Firm Post Buckley, Shoe and Jernigan about 15 years ago did a very comprehensive study on this reservoir about the restoration. Prior to that, there have been many, many other studies done in this reservoir and other lakes around the state of Florida. And 2 points. One, about 10% of the water that comes into Rodman evaporates. It does not serve any useful purpose in terms of providing water supply for the people in this community. Two, I've heard statements saying that this is a filtering system for the St. Johns River. Basically, the Rodman is acting like a big facultative lagoon. For those of you who understand wastewater treatment, that means it's a polishing pond. You can see them at pulp and paper mills all over the southeast United States. Unfortunately, it's not being operated like a polishing pond because the sediments that accumulate, the dead organic material, the dead macrophytes, are not removed from the system. They basically decay, they rot, they go to the bottom, and if you go out there and look at the bottom of the Rodman Pool on a calm day around all those dead tree stumps, you will see a thick layer of dead organic material that's just floating. It can be anywhere from 5 to 10 feet thick below the surface over the bottom. And when you draw the reservoir down, some of that material consolidates, dries out, and turns into plant food. And cypress trees and others have, and when you do the drawdown, you'll see they revegetate very quickly. You can have trees grow 3 to 4 inches in a matter of a couple months. So there is a natural regeneration that comes when the reservoir is drawn down. Now the problem is we refill the reservoir, and all that material that was consolidated becomes resuspended, it dissolves, it goes back into the water column, and then the next time you have a high rainfall event, it flushes out of the reservoir, over the spillway, and into the St. Johns River. So this claim that this is some sort of filter for the St. Johns River is a bunch of crap. Folks, let's look at the science. Let's look at the reality. I understand the emotion involved here. It's a great fishing hole, but it is not doing some of the things that you think it's doing.
Right.
And if you come up with a better plan, then you can create better jobs in this community using the resource as it was created by God and use it the way God designed it to be used.
I would
Thank
say
you.
I would say it is safe to say in this room tonight that there's arguments for both sides. Okay.
Representative Davis, thank you for coming down. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
My question, I'm Larry Harvey, and I'm County Commissioner and also President of Save Rodman Reservoir.
Yes, sir.
And the question I'm having is, what I'm hearing from you tonight is, we're going to have a seat at the table, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, I
gonna
don't
be
know
in-
what the table is, but I think that it's very
It's going
important.
to be
That's
in
why
our
I'm here.
house, correct?
Sir,
It's going to be in our house?
in your house?
This is our house. This is Putnam County.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
What concrete plans do you have to have us enjoy our seat at the table? Have you decided any plans? Any more town halls? Any more?
No, I have not decided anything past this point. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a question for you. When is enough enough? Okay? In 1907, The river was dredged from 18 feet to 24, 1916 to 30 feet, 52 to 34, 78 to 38, 2003, 41, and now in 2015 to 44. The largest ship is 52, it needs 52 feet of draft. We're not going to get those large ships. The terminal is 9 nautical miles inland. Maybe it was built in the wrong place to begin with, okay? But we'll satisfy that. Let's just say, for example, that we do breach the dam, that we're not advocating doing. And all this water goes up there, and then you find out it's not enough water. What are you going to do then? What's going to happen? Because we're not holding back the Atlantic Ocean. It's coming this way. And salt water goes over the fresh water. So it's not like we're going to do, maybe we shouldn't have dredged to begin with. And that's me as a lover of the environment and a lover of that area out there. I don't want to see our aquifer and our springs, the drinking water that Putnam County has, go out for no good use at all. And that's what's going to happen. So one other statement, Mr. Davis, and I'd really like for you to clarify this. What you're saying, if Rodman isn't the mitigation, then what is it, please, sir?
If Rodman isn't the mitigation?
Yes.
There's a mitigation plan with the Army Corps.
Exactly, the 692 acre. But if Rodman isn't considered mitigation, what would you term Rodman being?
I don't understand your question. I don't understand what you...
I think it's being held hostage. I can use a term extortion. It seems like even the memorandum of understanding, she says I can still file lawsuits. This is a worthless piece of paper. And if Rodman has no business being in the mitigation by the Corps of Engineers, why are we here? Why are we here? To satisfy somebody's requirement. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Daniel, for coming. You and I have served in the legislature together. I've always known you to be an honorable man. But I'm a member also of Save Rodman. I have been for a long time. My family is. I've been out on the lake. I understand Rodman. And I understand what it does to filter and provide clean water from the Ocklawaha into our fragile St. John's.
Yes, sir.
If we were to breach the dam, we would pour all that silt and accumulation of metals and herbicides and pesticides and every other thing that would be poison to the St. John's into the St. John's, helping to decimate the St. John's while destroying Rodman Reservoir. And I want to tell you that there is, I believe, this is my opinion, there is one reason why those people who call themselves environmentalists want to destroy Rodman Reservoir. The reason is because it is man-made. That's the reason. It isn't that it will do anything to mitigate the salinity. We have a Corps of Engineers report that says appreciably it won't affect the salinity. It's not going to give you any more volume except the original push. And so there's no reason to destroy it. I mean, there's just no reason to take away all of the millions of birds and fish and wildlife and otters. And did you know there's even pressure-sensitive switches in the locks so that if a manatee gets in the lock, he can't get hurt? All of those things have been done at Rodman Reservoir to protect the environment. And for someone to come along and say that they're an environmentalist or otherwise is bogus. Now, Daniel, we've always served honorably together in our station. I regret this meeting tonight. I'm a native of Jacksonville, even though I represent all of Putnam County. And I'm ashamed of this. I'm to be honest with you. I know that you're a Christian man, and I am too, and there are many Christian people here, but I'm reminded of a scripture where there was a rich man and a poor man's family next door, and the rich man had plenty of cattle and lambs and goats and everything to have a banquet with, but instead, the poor family had a little lamb. And the rich people said, well, we'll just take that lamb. It'll make good eating on our table. And they did that. I hate to be reminded of that, of my own home city of Jacksonville. I helped push the legislation that said dredge the mouth of the river for Jacksport. I voted for it. I still support it. Now, to just abruptly learn a couple of weeks ago that Rodman Reservoir is the sacrifice for that, I believe is shameful. But thank you, sir, for coming tonight. God bless you.
We've heard our community speak. I do want to say specifically any comments that say we don't care about the First Coast and about our region does not speak for all of us. We care about our region. Definitely. We are not an island. We're not seeking to be an island. We are a part of the team. We were left off, the bus left without all of the team players. But I'm asking tonight, I've given our guests opportunity to think about the challenge. We were left out. He has apologized on behalf of the organization. I want to know from the perspective of all Putnam Countyans, where do we go from here? What do we do? A lot of emotion is in the room, but tonight I can't say that I'm more proud to be a Putnam Countyan because of how this meeting has been conducted. Thank you. I believe it is important that we have some closing comments or some final remarks there from our speaker, Mr. Davis. I think, again, I applaud him and appreciate him along with the rest of us for coming. However, tonight, with all of the opinions that are here, that was not the reason, as Mr. Pickens stated initially, that was not the reason for this particular meeting. There will be many meetings to address those issues. Right now, the top issue is how and when is Putnam County going to be respected as a regional team player?
So I think that what we want to know is not how do we go from here and make it better, but are you willing to back up and bring us to the table and start this global conversation with us at the beginning of the conversation rather than as an afterthought in the middle, which is where we are right now.
Well, number one, I would like to reiterate what the commissioner stated earlier. Lots of emotion in the room. And you all have treated me with much respect, and I appreciate that. I would have to tell you that moving forward, I want to do everything I can to help improve the quality of life in Northeast Florida, in our region, to improve jobs in our region, to make it better, healthier river in our region. That's my goal, Commissioner, Mr. Representative. And I would be willing, if Putnam County is willing to come to the table, to back up and start over, if you'll give me that chance. So I told the community that I'm not going to do anything without being open and clear to the community. I think that it's important for us to get together because I think there are problems that can be solved. And I think that there are opportunities that could be grasped at this time for not only Putnam County, but Northeast Florida together. And if you are willing to come to the table, I'm willing to come to the table and do something great for our community.
Thank you for that response. We certainly would want to give you the opportunity to follow whatever the protocol is for the organization, and that if once you can speak with all concerned, perhaps you could come by way of our commission meeting just for it to be official so that this entire community knows that your board and all concerned have agreed that we will rewind the tape and start this process appropriately with Putnam County. Thank you for your comments. Just before everyone leaves, I would like to express our appreciation to our school superintendent and the administrative staff of the CL Overturf 6th Grade Center for making this facility available to our citizens tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again for coming. Proud to be a Putnam Countyan. Good night, and God bless us all. Thank you.